Episode 1. The episode starts with Fank, who was in the car listening to the news. Then he finds out that an unknown thing has been noticed in the Earth's atmosphere, which could be a UFO. Then Fank calls the doctors and tells them that it is going to rain today, so they should be careful. Now, due to talking on call, Fong's attention is lost and his car meets with an accident, in which he is badly injured. Then we see a girl Shaisa comes towards him, who was not wearing anything. Actually, she is an alien who came down from the UFO. Then she comes to Fong with a sheet and starts thinking while touching his body that how handsome he is. Then she shakes her head and fixes the fan with her power. Then she sees that her car is about to blast. That's why she comes in front of the fan, so that the fan doesn't get hurt. And when the car blasts, it affects Shahzeo. Because of which blood starts coming out of her mouth, which was blue in color. And Shahzeo herself falls into the river due to pressure. But before falling, a drop of her blood falls on the hand of the fan. And a shiny object falls out of his locket and lands on Fong's body. In the next scene, we see Fong, who wakes up in his house. And a doctor comes and tells him that you had an accident. But now you are absolutely fine. Now we see Shai Xian, who asks a man if this is the Northern Hemisphere. But that man is scared to see him in this condition and runs away from there. Then Shizeo sits there and starts thinking what to do. Now suddenly he hears a voice, which was of Turtle. Actually, it was Shizeo's guide Kubri. Then he tells him to use the Annunciator, on which Shizeo tells him that he has lost him and he is probably with the same man he saved his life. But because of the darkness, I don't remember his face well. Hearing this, Kubri tells him to find the Annunciator quickly. Now we see Fank who gets ready and reaches his company, where it was very crowded. Because all his ex-girlfriends had come there with reporters. Then Fank goes to his cabin without saying anything to anyone and sits. And tells all the girls to come in one by one. Now when the girls come inside, Fong gives them such offers to get rid of them, which she can't refuse. And she agrees to leave Fong. After which she happily leaves from there. Then Jean shows Fong a drop of blood, which had now become a stone. Seeing this, Fong sends her to the forensic department for research. There, we see Shaisa, who comes to a store and starts trying all the dresses there with her power. And in the end, she likes a bride's dress. That's why she wears it. Then the guards come there. Due to which Shiza runs away from there and comes to the road. But then she remembers what happened last night. She gets scared and sits on the road. Now she was about to crash into a car. Then she stops everything with her power. And we see that the car she was about to crash into was Fong's car. Everyone stops at that place. But Fong was completely normal. Then he sees Shirzao and everything becomes normal. But Fong was unconscious and he was still thinking what is happening to him. Now we see him talking to Zhang and from their talks we know that Fong's mother died in the rain. Because of which Fong was very shocked and due to this, the next day after the rain, he met all the girls with whom he met. He forgot them due to an illness called amnesia. Then Zhang gives him medicine. And the scene comes to Shiza, who goes to a restaurant and drinks alcohol and gets very drunk. Then she notices a boy named Ligo, who was singing a song. Looking at him, she thinks that he is the same boy whom she saved last night. That's when the girl gets a call from Fong, who immediately runs to the washroom. And then we come to know that he is Fong's stepbrother, whom Fong had asked to make a painting for an artist show. But he was coming here and enjoying a little. That's when the Jinn comes there. And immediately takes her from there. Now we see Shizeo again, who is in a state of intoxication. And when she starts going to the restaurant, the owner of the restaurant comes and asks her to pay the bill, which had become about 50,000 rupees. But Shizeo becomes unconscious while behaving strangely due to being in a state of intoxication. Now the next day, we see that Zaki brought Shizeo to her house. Because looking at Shizeo's clothes, it seemed that she was from a very rich family. And she wanted to take her bill from him. But when Shizeo gets up, she says thank you to Zaki and makes him face the truth. and starts going from there. Then Zhao hears about his space and thinks that he is crazy. That's why she starts crying because of losing her money. Seeing this, Shi Zhao stops and says that I am ready to do whatever it takes to give you your money. Hearing this, Zhao calms down. And in the next scene, we see that Zhao has given Shi Zhao the job of delivering in her restaurant. Now Shi Zhao does not cross the road due to fear of the car and teleports with her power. Feng is also shocked to see him up close, but he thinks it's just his imagination. Then we see Shi Zhao, who had come to do a duet with Li. Then Li calls him to his room and tells him that my brother has imprisoned me here and only you can get me out of here. Now, because Shi Zhao was very impressed to see Li, because he was very handsome, that's why she agrees to help him. Now we see Li going out in Shizhao's clothes. And when Feng comes to his room, she is in Shizhao Li's clothes. Now seeing her, Feng tries to ask him about Li's location. But Shizhao doesn't tell him anything and somehow runs away from there. But Feng gets his restaurant card and food. Seeing this, he asks Feng Jin to find a restaurant. Now when Shi Zhao reaches near Zhao, she finds her clothes there, which were given to Zhao. She was also given a card in which she asked Shi Zhao to meet her in a restaurant. Shi Zhao is very happy to see her. Now when Shi Zhao finishes all the deliveries. At night, her restaurant is completely empty. But when she goes inside, she finds Feng sitting there, who tells her that he has booked the whole hotel. Now looking at him, Shi Zhao tries to run away from there, but Zhao stops him at the gate and tells him that such a big businessman has only demanded from you, so you go and listen to him and serve him. Hearing this, Shi Zhao has to listen to Zhao and she takes the menu and goes to Feng, who tells her that I want every dish here and we will talk about Li while eating together. Then Shiza tries to stop him from doing this, but at the end she has to listen to him. Now when she is cooking, she does not understand how to do this work. And she sets fire there, seeing which Feng immediately comes to the kitchen and takes off his shirt and puts out the fire. And Shi Zhao again gets attracted to his body. And as soon as she puts her hand on his chest, he realizes that Feng is the same man he saved his life. Then Feng asks him, "What are you doing?" To which Shi Zhao says, that you are very strong, so stay away from me. But when she sees Feng's muscular body, she tells him everything about Li. And Feng immediately leaves from there. Then Shi Zhao also arrives at the hotel before Feng in full speed to save Li. And tells Li to run away from there. But Li tells him that everyone here is under his control. Saying this, he asks Shi Zhao to have lunch with him. And the two start talking together while having lunch. Then while shaking hands, Li Shiza asks him, "Why are you wearing gloves?" On which he says that the skin of aliens like us is very sensitive and if you directly touch it, something very bad will happen. That's when the Feng comes there, seeing which Shiza starts getting attracted to him again and he starts smelling the annunciator from it. Then Feng sees Shi Zhao and asks his bodyguard to catch Li. Then Shi Zhao thinks that Feng does not have an annunciator and maybe he is at his house. So she starts acting and says that I have to stay with Li. Even after seeing him doing this, he helps him. That's why Feng takes them home with him. When everything calms down after a while, Shiza starts looking for her annunciator. But she doesn't get it even after a lot of hard work. And she reaches Feng's room while looking for her. From where she sees Feng bathing in the bathroom. And she gets attracted to her again. That's when Feng hears a voice and thinks that someone is outside. That's why Xiao Zhao also goes outside and does everything as before and quickly runs away from there. And Feng goes back to sleep thinking it to be his hallucination. Now after she sleeps, Xiao Zhao comes back to her room and starts looking at her. As soon as she was about to scan his body, Feng holds his hand and lays him on the bed and sits on it. Then he asks him, "What have you stolen?" To which Shizeo tells him that he has not stolen anything. "If you want, I can take off your clothes and get it checked." Hearing this, Feng feels shy and immediately calls the security and gets Shizeo out of there. Now the next day, when Li finds out about it, he feels very bad. But Feng tells him that you can't date Shazad. Saying this, Feng leaves from there. At the same time, we see Feng's stepmother, to whom her brother comes and starts talking to her. And we find out that she doesn't like Fang at all. And she wants her son Li to be the chairman of the company and handle everything. Then he tells her that Fang has amnesia. That's why he has made a plan. And to collect evidence against him, he has called a girl named Zhu. Then we see Zhao's efforts with Zhao, where she shows him an agreement and tells him that he made a lot of profit yesterday, and if Fang signs this agreement, then we will have to send Tiffin for his staff every day. That's why you go and get it signed, on which Shiza agrees and reaches Fang's building. There we see Fang near the lift, where the lift's gate suddenly closes and stops, and Shiza gets on the lift jumping from in front of her. After that, everything is fine. Seeing all this, Fang gets very shocked. But this time too, he finds all this a hallucination. After that, she keeps an agreement in Fang's cabinet and starts looking for her enunciator there. But as soon as she feels that Fang is coming, she hides. But Fang finds out everything by looking at the wrong arrangement of his books. That's why he starts calling Shizao out. Then Shizao ties his hands and starts asking him about the enunciator. In response, Fang tells him that he doesn't know anything about it. Then in the process, Shizao also tells him that he saved his life that night, which Fang doesn't believe. Because according to Fang, there was no one there at that time. Then Fang's uncle's voice comes there and Fang tells Shizao to keep quiet. His uncle comes to him and tells him that Zhu has come to meet him, on which Fang tells him to lie that he is unwell. Now after uncle's departure, Shizhu also goes from there in anger. And when Fang's uncle goes and tells this to Zhu, she understands that he is lying. That's why she goes from there in anger and breaks his car. While Fang goes to the forensic department and finds out about that stone from the scientist, on which the scientist has to tell something. Then Jean calls Fang and asks him to come to the garage. When Fang goes to the garage, Zhu tells him that her dad fixed my blind date with you. That's why I just wanted to see you once. And after saying this, she goes away from there. And Fang tells Zhu to keep an eye on her. There we see Li, who gets Zhu's message. And he gets lost in his old vision, in which he was very happy with Zhu. But at one point, they broke up. On the other hand, we see Shizao and Zaki talking. That's when Li reaches there. And while talking to Shizao, he starts drinking with him. But because of drinking too much, he becomes unconscious. And he starts seeing the Zhu and Shizao. That's why Li holds his hand. But at that time, Shizao was not wearing glasses. That's why something starts happening to her. And she goes to the shivering storeroom and sits down. Now because it's been a long time and there is no trace of Li. That's why Fang traces her location and goes straight to the restaurant. Where first Miss Zhao stops her from going inside. Because Li had already booked the whole restaurant. But as soon as he finds out that Li is Fang's brother, he lets him in. Now going inside, Fang sees Li in a state of intoxication, so he gets very scared and immediately calls Jean to take him away. That's when she sees the storeroom, in which when she goes, everything was spread out there. And Shizao was still shivering sitting on the side. Seeing her, Fang gets very scared and immediately starts calling the ambulance. But Shizao refuses to do this and hugs her, which gives Shizao relief, and she says that you are so warm. After hearing this, Fang distances himself from him. That's when Shiza kisses him. And this episode ends here. So guys, this was today's video. And I hope you liked this video.